I think that a no is good. Getting a no is essential for getting a proper yes. Not everyone needs to be your client. And this is something that took me a long time to realize, it's actually better that I would say no to clients than me approaching small time clients trying to sell them something that is beyond what they can comprehend.
Welcome to episode 5 of season 6 of Live in the Feast. I'm Jason, aka Rez, helping you grow your business by having a conversation with someone who's been there, had success, and built a business designed around the life they want to live. That's Live in the Feast. If this is your first time listening, hit that subscribe button so that you will get notified every time a brand new episode drops. Obviously, Live in the Feast is in your podcast app of choice, if you're listening right now. If you've heard this show before, leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a comment in Breaker or Castbox if that's an app that you're using. Today's co-host is Vito Peleg. Vito learned how to run a business while he was on tour with his band, filling up arenas of fans from the back of his van. Yep. He lived the rock star lifestyle. But Vito has since built a business, built an agency, in fact. And as a result of solving his own agency's needs to be able to communicate with his clients in a way that his clients wanted to communicate with him, he was able to build, sell, and launch a product that's turning his agency into a product company. In this episode, we dive into the mindset of pricing and how powerful that can be, not just for yourself, but for your client as well. We also talk about the importance of understanding your client and how important your service is to them, and not to assume that what you're selling is what they ultimately want. And we'll also break down how you see your end goal and then break that down into a price for your services and products. I thoroughly enjoyed this chat with Vito. You could tell that he's a genuine person and ready to help. I'm so glad to consider him my friend. Vito offered a coupon code for you, Rez Rocks, for his product, WP Feedback. Head on over to wpfeedback.co to redeem that. It's 10% off. It's an amazing product. If you're an agency owner, you're a designer, you're a developer, you're anybody that's working with clients where you need feedback from a website, take it from me. This is the product that you're going to want to check out and use for your business. It's going to save you a boatload of time. It's going to save you a boatload of back and forth emails, and it's going to save you a boatload of frustration. Head on over to wpfeedback.co and use the coupon code REZROCKS for 10% off. Now, let's just head in and dive in. I know you're going to love this rock star, so let's do it. Hey Feasters, welcome to another episode of Live in the Feast. And today I'm super excited to be bringing to you Vito Peleg. Welcome, Vito.
Hi, how you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great. I know that we had some communication back and forth, timing of things, so I'm really excited to actually square that up and have you on the show. Vito, I know your background. You basically started as a musician building websites, right? And I love that, and we'll get into that. But for you that are listening, the reason why I think Vito has a unique insight into this is that he's had a couple of transitions. One, he was a musician, then he did services work, and now he's got a product called WP Feedback, which is essentially a plugin that allows you to get feedback from designs, functionality from your clients real time in the ecosystem of the website. So now, as far as pricing goes, he's run the gamut, right? Like gigs, doing music, his band, traveling, all that stuff, then providing services work, and now he has a product. So I wanted to bring him onto the show to talk a little bit more about pricing and his journey and unfold that a little bit more. Vito, first of all, how long did you tour with your band and what kind of music was it?
Right. So I actually have been a musician since I was 14 years old. And that's pretty much the same time when I was actually built my first website, which was for a skateboarding crew that I had back in the day on GeoCities, if you remember that.
Yeah. I had a GeoCities site.
So that was a kind of the first introduction to HTML and understanding all of these kind of things. And I kept doing this mostly to promote the stuff I was doing for music. So I learned Photoshop to create flyers and to create official designs. And I learned how to edit videos and to do all of this kind of stuff for the band, but now it's really valuable for me. Recording and sales, creating relationships and building partnerships with record companies, booking agencies, venues, other bands, all of these kind of stuff. That was kind of my school, if you will.
Right.
And after a few years, and while we were playing and just trying to make it back home, and it was really, really tough because the style was like we're doing like niche rock and roll kind of music, like AC/DC vibe to it.
Awesome. Nice.
And no one really cared except for us. So that was an uphill battle to get people to kind of like come on board, which was a huge kind of influence on the way that I did everything else afterwards. Because if you're trying to sell something to people that don't want to buy it, when you have good product market fit, then everything is just magical. You feel like you made it.
Sure.
And that kind of also this passion of running after that dream and making sure that it's going to happen, working for years for free. And you know how that's like. But also not only working for free for myself, but trying to get a team. We were 4 guys, and everyone was working for free. And I had to keep them motivated and keep everything, kind of running smoothly to make sure that it works well. And then after a few years, we kind of like said, all right, let's just rebrand the whole thing. Let's create like a new band, same guys, but let's try and approach like the international market. And so that's when I really dove in, and I read like every marketing book that I could find back then. I went to a bookstore and bought all the books about marketing from the shelf. And I did some like a training on business consultancy and all this kind of stuff to understand how to make it happen, mostly for the band. That was the initial objective. Then when we took all of that and we created a product, we created an album that is done right. So it's not just done. It was still the same style and what we loved in our art, but we already knew who the target audience is. We knew how to approach them even before we created the product, which was the album. And so within the first 30 days of just putting it online, we got signed here in the UK. And that allowed us, the entire band, to move here to the UK and start touring the world.
Nice.
And we did like, when we first came here, again, we started from scratch. It was like, 10 people at a show, then a few dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. And then the band broke up.
Oh, jeez. That's so awesome. I mean, as I love music. I mean, Led Zeppelin is my favorite band of all time.
Awesome.
And so, to hear that you, at least the initial was, more of the classic rock feel kind of genre. I mean, that hits home. I mean, I'm into heavy metal, a lot of hard stuff.
You would have loved our band.
Yeah. Like, I mean, right now, my wife, it's funny. When my wife and I started dating, me and a bunch of my friends, we went to a local metal concert at a club here. And, it was Between the Buried and Me. So it's a band that's very, very hard, a lot of screaming. Musically wise, outstanding, right? And so it's a band that I love. And, she's like, I guess she just wanted to impress sort of thing. She's like, and she's not into that at all, right? And she's like, I asked her just because, I was being a nice guy. I was like, do you want to go? I'll get you a ticket. She's like, sure. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, you've heard the kind of music that in the car, like what I listen to, that's going to be that live. And she went, and then like, it's funny. Even now to this day, she's like, I should have just let you go by yourself. Like when we talk about that story, but
with my wife is actually a lot more hardcore when it comes to her metal. Like I like the Zeppelin stuff, the old school beats, and more melodic kind of rock and roll. But she's into Pantera and Machine Head and these kind of things. So now it's kind of the opposite from what we're used to. She's telling me, "Do you want to go see a Rise Against?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man."
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll go. Awesome. But what's kind of cool is like, obviously I followed, bands and heard their stories and all of that stuff. But you took that, I'm interested to hear, like you took that from like a business perspective. Like it wasn't working. I went to the bookstore, got some marketing knowledge from that, and then repurposed that and rebranded your band essentially. Yes. What made you do that, go that route instead of just saying, you know what, this isn't working, let's break up?
Right. So first of all, it wasn't kind of it wasn't in my game to break up or give up on these things. I really wanted to make it happen. So that was the kind of the biggest driver of me wanting to acquire knowledge to make it happen. But more than that, really early on, I realized as we were starting to play and we got, we were screwed a few times by venue owners and all kinds of like, fake managers and so on. Mm-hmm. I realized that I need to take care of this thing. And it's a business, it's the show business, there's a term to it. And I really kind of started when I was even in high school. I already knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a musician. So I started reading these kind of books about, and I realized that it's hard, that it's really, really hard to make it. Actually, there is the chance of owning a home as a musician is 0.0001%.
Oh, jeez.
And so I tried to look at this from a different angle, and I read, all of these kind of Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of these things that were kind of bestsellers at the time. Mm-hmm. And that really changed my mindset about this whole thing. So music was still the craft, but it needs to be driven. It needs to be pushed forward. And this is something that I still think about. And I think that without this knowledge, the stuff that we're doing for clients and within my agency and within my own stuff, my own businesses, nothing would have happened to that same speed, because basically instead of just being a musician for 10 years and then starting to learn how to run a business, I was always doing that even while, sweating and jumping on stage.
Right. Yeah.
My tongue out.
That's awesome. So what's the name of the band?
I was called Chase the Ace.
Chase the Ace.
Yeah, it's actually still on Spotify, still on YouTube. There's all the videos there on YouTube and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to go check it out. So fast forward, obviously several years, you're doing services work, right? And what you told me anyway was the first year of services work, right? You did it out of the back of a van, so to speak, right?
Literally.
Yeah, but yet you were successful at it. Like, how did you, to dive deep into the pricing aspect of it, right? Like, and you talked about working for free and things of that nature, but when you were working out of the van initially, how did you know how to price what you were providing to those clients?
So like the entire subject of this conversation is about the pricing, and I can actually summarize this pretty well. It's going to ruin the rest of the show, but I'll try to summarize this in one sentence. Pricing is mindset. It's nothing more than that. If you believe that you should earn what you're asking, then people will pay that. And that's kind of has been my experience with this forever. So when I started building websites, I didn't really believe I can make more than $500 for a project. And so that's what I was paid. Mm-hmm. But when someone paid me $500, I was like, okay, maybe I can ask for $750. And maybe then I can ask for $1,000 and $1,500 and $2,000 and $3,000 and $10,000. And that kind of like how it expanded based on my ability to ask for what I think I deserve. So at the beginning, like the idea was just to make some, because we were still touring. The band was working, but no money still. So I had to do something, to sustain myself and thinking of the future and so on. So I did start I reached out to some people that already seen the stuff that I've done with the band, and they liked the promotions that I've been doing and the website that I built for us. And I just offered them, how about we do this photographer and really random basic websites that we all start with.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. It wasn't much for them, so we did it. And then once I had just a few pieces of work to showcase, that's when I started looking at this in a more serious manner, and again went to do the research. I checked out what other web designers are doing, and because I was already looking at myself as London-based, even though we were touring the world, most of the clients I was kind of aiming at the UK and London here, and so I called up a bunch of other agencies and I told them I want a website to see how much they're charging, which really blew my mind because I didn't think that these are the numbers that people are talking in, But then you kind of, the more you speak to people, you just start feeling comfortable asking for it, and you stop stuttering when you say
right.
the number, and that's when people just start giving you what you ask. And I was doing just one website at a time just to sustain myself. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really a scalable thing, or I wasn't even thinking about scaling, because how would you manage a team when every time you need Wi-Fi, you need to stop next to a McDonald's on the road,
Right. I couldn't agree more with what Vito is saying about mindset. And yes, it may seem a bit woo-woo or fluff, and that's not what I'm about. But I've experienced this firsthand. Real quick story, and I'll actually elaborate more on this in a minute, but when I was doing websites on the side, I too was only charging a few $100s, until I worked for an agency charging tens of thousands of dollars for a simple 10 to 15 page static website. It blew my mind. But that's when I realized that price isn't based on the skills. It was based on the problem that was being solved for the individual client, and the belief in knowing that this was providing that value. It's why when you are on platforms like Upwork, it's a complete race to the bottom and you are being compared to everyone else completely on price. If you are serious about not competing on price and having clients that respect you and your expertise and pay you what you're worth, head over to feastcourse.com today. And if you use the code MINDSET, you'll get your first month for only $20. As a member of Feast, you're going to get the processes and templates to not only figure out who your ideal client is and the services that you can provide for them, but you're also going to figure out the exact price to put on those services that makes it a complete no-brainer for the client. Feast is the community and resource hub for developers and designers ready to get off the project searching hamster wheel and actually run the business that they set out to build. Feast helps position you in the market with what you do, who you help, and helps you build the processes and systems for client management, sales and marketing, delivery, and obviously pricing. Your business isn't the same as everyone else's. When you are a member of Feast, you get personalized guidance from myself. It's essential for me to meet you where you are and make sure that you are getting the exact tools so that you don't get lost in the shuffle. The moment you sign up, we'll have a chat so that I can create a custom syllabus of resources within Feast to meet you where you are and get you those quick wins. If you want to stop chasing down that next project all the time so that you can start living your life, go to feastcourse.com today and use the code MINDSET at checkout and get your first month for only $20. No, I think that's smart. It definitely is a mindset thing, but I think it's also a validation. Like the validation of somebody paying you what you're asking for helps that mindset and that confidence to then go ahead and turn that back around the next time and say, hey, 500, 1,000, 10,000. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? Like people seem to like, like, who am I to ask these numbers? And like yourself, like you called up agencies to find out what they were charging. For me, when I was doing the side hustle thing and building websites, much like what you're describing, photographers and local businesses and that sort of thing, I was working for agencies.
Right.
And when I would see these contracts come across my desk, I'm like, holy, $30,000 for what are they getting here? A 5-page website? Like, how is this possible? Right. And it was one of those things where it was like a switch for me. It was like, hey, if these people are delivering this for this amount, I know I can add more value. And if I could do it for half the price, I mean, it positions me as a no-brainer for the potential client.
I agree. And it's just that. It's just the mindset. It's just like how far are you able to push your comfort zone when you're doing these sales calls and creating these proposals. But to be honest, you always need to add more because whatever you think is possible is not as big as it can be. Mm-hmm. And I even have the bass player from the band. Now he does videos and he does like After Effects kind of stuff, explainer videos and such. And he asked me about this exact question, like, how do I price it? How do I charge for my services? So I asked him, how much are you charging right now? He said they're £150 a day. I told him, okay, charge 300. And he said, okay. He thought that's what, and after a few months later, that's what happened. He just started saying 300 and people paid him 300, doubled his pricing in an instant. And then he came back to me and he asked me like, how did you know that that's going to work? And I told him, I just made it up, but you believed it. And that's what matters, because you believed that you're worth 300 because you trusted me so much, then it worked. And so I told him, now that you know the trick, let's make it 450. And now that's what he's charging.
So, okay. So, I mean, obviously there's that mindset. I would love to say, with my next consulting client, $100,000, right?
Yeah. Why not? Russell Benson takes him 1 million.
Right. But at the same time, they have to see that value. Just because I believe it, they don't, the price has to reflect the value that I'm turning around, right? So like, obviously, if I'm going to charge $100,000, in my mind, that should be 10% of the value that comes back, right? So they should be able to make $1 million off of the value that they've gotten from me. Do you factor that in when you think about, like you mentioned, you have to continuously add value?
Yes.
With regard to your services, and get into the product here in a second, but with regard to the services, how do you factor that in? Like, I think of it as a 10%. I want what they pay me as 10% of what their ROI is. Do you factor any of that stuff in?
Not to that degree. I would say that it kind of sorts itself out because the clients that don't see the value in what price I offer to them will just not go for it. And it's just the way, and again, it's not because of the I'm going to create a different product for different people. It's because their business and their, glass ceiling is stopping them from seeing what can be achieved. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really matter if I believe that the value of this is $1 million. If the client can't see that, then they're just going to think it's expensive. So the idea is then, and this happens over time as you kind of as you start, let's say, insisting on the prices that you think you should be getting, you're just going to clean up all of these small clients. I won't do the same client that I did 5 years ago, the same photographer that could afford only 500 because he was doing it on the side. That was the value for him.
Right.
But if you go and you're working with like big charities, or you're working with like real estate companies, or you're working with app startups that need a platform to sell the app on the web, and they see the value in, they see how this is not a website. This is a marketing platform. Mm-hmm. And when you factor this in as a marketing platform, then the sky's the limit. When it comes to marketing, it depends on how much a product market fit and how much you have in your budget to spend to scale this up. That will determine the value of how much the website was worth. So basically, the idea is that if you price yourself or position yourself in a higher ticket, you're going to attract the clients that can afford it. Mm-hmm. It might not happen instantly, probably not going to happen instantly. But after a while, that's what's going to happen, because the people that said no still have that in their mind of like, why did this guy ask for 7,000 for the website? But maybe there's something there, they start justifying this to themselves.
Sure.
So that's kind of the game. I'm not really calculating it into percentage because it's so different. I don't know what's the structure of every business that I send a quote to. Such an early stage of the relationship, you never know kind of how they're going to react. We had businesses that went for a few £1,000 websites, or people that went for a few £1,000 websites, and then ended up not doing anything, including not giving us the content or the stuff. So they obviously couldn't see the value in their own business, let alone in the website that we're building for them.
Sure. So, okay. So that's awesome transition, right? Like the product that you have now is WP Feedback, right? And dear listener, Vito has graciously shared with us a coupon if this is something of a need for you. And to be honest with you, I think it's a great plugin that you can use for your clients and be able to get that feedback, right? So find that in the show notes. I'll link it up for sure, and you can go grab it. So thank you for that, Vito.
My pleasure.
You said that you had a client that you struggled with to get feedback from, essentially through the content, whatever, you're asking questions, they were maybe not responding or timely. Is WP Feedback the back scratcher of that itch?
I would say that it started from this, and because as I was scaling, and kind of skip on this, but once the band kind of ended and I started growing my own agency. Within the first year, I already was in six figures, and within the third year, I already had 12 guys on my team. So I grew really fast. And when you grow, it's all about processes and systemizations. That's the name of the game. Because if you need other people to replicate the level of work that you're doing or the amount of detail that needs to happen, you have to have processes and systems in place. And so as we were scaling and taking on more and more projects, I started noticing that the biggest stop to a project is just the client giving up. The client not giving the content, not approving the designs, wasting so much time on just back and forth with not giving us enough information to help him. Just by sending like 3 words in an email and expecting you to go through the entire website and figure out what's that about. Or alternatively, sending like 50 emails for one request with like one image on each. You know how it works. Mm-hmm. So as I was inspecting this, I saw that this is ruining my business. This is costing me a lot. As the team grew, this is what's costing me a lot of money every day of wasted the time that the guys need to chase clients, that they need to do that this annoying back and forth, managing massive spreadsheets with tasks and all of these kind of stuff. Really, really boring work, very far from the creative work they wanted to do. And I just thought that I need to figure out how to do it better. So the way that we did it is we just figured it out we tried everything. We, form spreadsheets and project management systems. We worked with InVision app. We worked with, whatever solution that was out there, whatever courses that were out there about the subject I bought. And, I really kind of researched that subject. And it all came down to the communications. So what I decided to do is flip the idea on its head. So because we're all digital people, it's really easy for us to think of things as in a digital way. So like for us, creating a digital process of someone needs to fill out a form to give us the content, or to go into a third-party platform to input some stuff in there and manage tasks and learn new interfaces and all of these kind of things, it kind of comes naturally to us. But very far from the reality that most of our clients live in. I like to say that when we're looking at a computer or the screen, we're seeing the design, we're seeing the colors, the branding, we're seeing code, we're seeing, we're seeing the matrix,
right?
And they
right.
just see a screen, that's it. So I tried to flip the idea on its head, and instead of overcomplicating the process, to make it as simple as possible. Because if the client is not going to do it, then it's not worth anything.
Right.
And so the best thing that worked for us in the agency, it had some downsides, but the best thing to actually get a response from a client is to get them here, get them to sit next to you, point at the screen and tell you, change this, move that. Here we need to say this. Here we need to change that. But, having the client next to you also can easily help them become the puppet master.
Right.
And then you're just like a mouse for hire, which we don't want to be. Mm-hmm. So the challenge was, how can we get to that same level of precision without the client sitting next to us? So that's what we did. We created like a post-it note system for a live website where the client can simply click any element on the website, on his computer, even on his phone, and it creates this little stickers that are sprinkled throughout the site, where each sticker is a task that is assigned to the specific div where the comment was created. You're getting a notification back to your email with that 5-word, that we always used to get, mm-hmm. But only that now when we click on that link, you're being redirected to the exact location where the problem is, even if it's a 10,000 page website. It opens that thing and you reply. Even with that, I tried to make it to the point where for us as an agency, it's as easy as clicking the reply button on the email. So you just, instead of clicking reply, you click the link and you reply in there, but you already got all of the information that you need. Yeah. It also collects the screen size, which browser. So, if you see that the browser is like Internet Explorer from 4 years ago, you need to fire the client.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I love about it is that, what I've always struggled as a developer is much of what you said. And when I first saw your product there, I immediately thought of the commenting system in like Google Docs, right? Like where you can highlight it and click the little plus. But what's always frustrated me about that is when I do click on the notification email, it just brings me up the document. So now I got to go trace to figure out where that comment sits, right?
Exactly.
But as a developer, I even have a shortcut key for this question. What browser, what version, and what OS?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so for me to have that information, like I've used all those bug tracing tools and fog bugs, like it completely all over the map. Same thing like you, always trying to solve the problem. Yeah. And to get that information, because even still people are like, how do I find that information?
Exactly.
Like, how do I know what browser I am? I'm like, oh, geez. Okay. So I think it's super smart. It makes everything streamlined in a way that makes sense for the client. And that's what I love. Like similarly, I had Basecamp. I used Asana. I used all these project management tools, and I tried to push my clients to use them as well.
They never want to.
Right. Because for one, those things are very commonplace in our world, but it's not so much in their world. So for them to remember that the URL or the login or whatever it is to go use it, that's creating a hurdle. So instead, I said, I use those project management tools. How can I make it such that my client who knows email, understands email, can just send me an email, and then I pipe that ticket into my project management tool, and then I do what I need to do and come back up the chain. And that's when I found Help Scout and some of these other ones out there that can do that. And I just changed my whole way of communicating with clients to make it easier for them. Right. And I think that's super smart that you did that with the plugin.
I totally agree. Like we're still using Teamwork as the project management system and the support desk. And even with this, like every task that comes in doesn't go into emails, it goes into the support desk. And with Zapier, it also creates a task within the client's project on our platform, so we can manage all of the clients from one place on our side. But they don't see that. So to them, it's transparent. And that's the magic here, because as soon as you ask a client to go in, and you know what, this is even one of the craziest things that we're doing in the community. Like you're building a website for a client that pays you, should pay you good money for it, right? Mm-hmm. But then we never send them to the website. we always send them to everywhere else, like log in there, go in there, send me an email from this platform, comment on this thing. You never send them to the link that they bought. And that causes a lot of other problems. Like, for example, they become dependent on us on all of these small annoying tasks, like changing the title here and there, or changing the text on the button, which they can do on their own if they would feel comfortable using their own website. Mm-hmm. But also, once they do feel comfortable using the site, what we're seeing is that it kind of, once they get the value of it, it inspires them to invest more. So they would come back and order, not just change the color of the header, but let's add a booking system. Let's build a funnel. Let's do a client management area for my clients, on my website. So it kind of inspires them to expand the relationship in a more interesting way for us as developers and website builders.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I mean, it's giving them, hey, here's the ecosystem that you bought from us, use it. And then as you're using it, like you spark other ideas on how you can use it. So I think that's super smart. So a lot of the listeners, myself included, have thought about building software or building a SaaS or building a plugin of that nature, kind of transition or get another revenue stream into the business to help their services side. And maybe even, as the holy grail of passive income, which I don't even, there's no such thing. But, the idea of passive income is appealing. Yeah. How did you, now that you have a product here that you're selling, how do you transition your mindset for pricing from the services, the high ticket pricing, to a product that, may not be, even though that there's tremendous value.
It's not the same price point.
Nobody's going to pay $10,000 for that, right? So how did you transition your mindset there?
So first of all, you hit the nail right on the head, because it's all about the transitioning the mindset. That's the point. And I read a really interesting article about how to frame your clients as to how you can get to 100 million recurring revenue per year, right? So the way that they structured it is they called each bracket or each level of client in different kind of animal size. So you can go after the mice, or you can go after the rabbits. The mice will only pay like $10 or $15 a year. The rabbits will pay you like $100, $150 a year. That's pretty much the bracket that I'm working with. Then you have raccoons, like a bigger animal, right, until you get to the whales, where you get like one client you get 100 clients for $1 million each to get to the 100 million recurring revenue. So that's the first thing. Just realizing that you're now talking to a different segment of the market. And to me, what I really liked about this is that with high ticket clients, there comes a lot of responsibility, so, and responsibility to me means my time. It means that I need to invest my personal time talking to clients. Even after this call, I have a call with the client. I don't even want to see them by this point, and I just want to do the product. But I still have the agency stuff running. But because they're paying a few £1,000s every month, they deserve my time. They deserve my attention. So that was the biggest thing for me. I wanted to move away from this huge responsibility of people calling in getting in touch stressed at night and holding against you that they're paying you $5,000 a month, right, just because the footer link is missing. So that's kind of the mindset that I needed to figure out then. What I did is I started with the big number. And I think that's the power of it, because with the agency, I worked the same. For the first year, I put a goal for myself. I want to get to 6 figures this year. And for the second year, I had the same thing. And for the third year, I had the same thing. And so here, I just looked at the big number. What do I want to make this year? And then I tried to break it down as to how many clients can I serve to get to this goal and still be sustainable. And based on that, create the kind of pricing around this. And to be honest, something that was really interesting, I came up with a pricing structure for the product. And you remember at the beginning, I told you that I called up a few agencies to ask how much they're charging. Mm-hmm. So here I did kind of the same thing. I had my beta group, which I kind of opened. I just splashed on a landing page describing the idea. I shared it with some Facebook groups, WordPress Facebook groups. And I got 1,000 people signing up in 30 days, just telling me about just wanting to use the product, the concept just appeal to them. And so I took the first 100 and I made them the beta users. I gave them the plugin for free. And I asked them, how much are you willing to pay for something like this? And it was 4 times more than I priced it. It was crazy.
Hold on. Let me stop you there, right? So one, you found the core customer that was going to, and you presented the idea. You didn't go ahead and build that out. And then
we already had an MVP, but it was very, very basic. Just the concept of sticking those stickers so they see the potential.
Right. And then you grabbed a group of those people, gave them the actual MVP product, and then asked them, how much would you pay for this? So you didn't assume a price.
I flipped it.
And had you assumed that price, right, you would have made 4 times less per customer than had you done it any other way, right? So I think that's so smart, because one thing I always try to instill in my coaching clients, into when I'm talking with other developers and designers, is talk to your customer, talk to your client, understand what they're thinking, understand what they value. Once you do that, then you have the privilege to put a price tag on what it is that you're giving them. And I think that was well done. Congratulations on that process alone. I mean, I think that even if just there's one takeaway in this whole thing is that you talk to your customer. So I apologize for stopping you, interrupting you, but I really wanted to call that out because I think that was super important. So
I agree. It was a shock to me, just seeing that and getting this. Because, the plugin is called WP Feedback. So just from day one, I decided that that's going to be the main value. Let's just talk to people, ask them what, I have the idea, but I didn't want to be, I like to say that I love the product, but I'm not in love with it, So if they need something about this, and if they need a new feature or a few people are going to ask me for something specific, I'm just going to go ahead and build it, And this is a great advantage that we all have, within our community, because we were working with clients that actually came up with ideas and basically directed us to their solution, to their desired solution. When you're building a website, when you're building web applications and so on, you're basically doing the same thing that I've done every month, 3 times, 5 times, 15 times a month. So we're all already doing this. We are all creating products on a monthly basis every month. It's just that after we're done, we just give it away, which is, and now looking back, thinking about it, maybe it's kind of crazy.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's well said for sure. I think, for one, I love it. I love the fact that you found the audience first, and then presented the idea to the audience. And to, like, as you said, like you said it at the top, pricing is a mindset, right? And if you believe that it's worth something, go ahead and ask for it, right?
Yeah. And I believed it was worth a quarter of what other people believed it was worth.
Right.
And when they told me, now I believe that this is what it's worth. And that's
right. Because they validated higher value than what you thought initially, right? And so that's where that you flipped it on its head, right? But like we talked about those clients that you have on the services side that don't see the value in a $7,000 website, right?
Yeah.
And they go away. But then when you present a valuable thing to them that you think, let's just say, you think it's $1, but they're willing to pay $4 for it, right? Okay, then you didn't paint yourself into a corner at that point. Like you asked them. And I think that that's super valuable. I mean, I've experimented a little bit on the services side much in the same way. When I've tried other services to try to like carve out products out of the services, and say, hey, if I was to be able to do X, Y, and Z for you, what would you pay for that? Right. And so,
yeah, as casual as that, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, again, it's that confidence, it's that mindset to go ahead and ask that. But I think a lot of people do struggle with that. But,
Yes.
Hearing your story, I mean, obviously, I hope you listeners are inspired by that because, hey, if you don't ask, you don't get. Right.
Exactly.
And so go ahead and ask for what you think you're valued. And just because one person says no, it doesn't mean the next person's not going to say yes. And so I think that's super smart.
Yeah. And it's actually, I think that a no is good. Getting a no is essential for getting a proper yes, because every no is a potential for learning and getting that feedback. And also, not everyone needs to be your client. And this is something that took me a long time to realize, that it's actually better to say that I would say no to clients than me approaching small time clients trying to sell them something that is beyond what they can comprehend. So if I see that type of customer coming our way, and to be honest, even with the plugin, I get people that come in and say like, why is it so expensive? I have a logical kind of breakdown because we're seeing after the pricing it, we checked how much time it's saving. So we kind of calculated it we're saving 3 hours a week every week within my agency just per team member. Which comes down to $980 a month saved just by using this solution. Mm-hmm. So then who cares about 70 or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Dude, I should bring you in for a pricing workshop into the community because that's what I say all the time. All you have to do is figure out what is important to them and then price anchor to that, right? Like if you're saving time, because that's what I was thinking immediately, like all the back and forth in the emails and all that other stuff,
it's the worst amount of it's the worst use of your time,
because it ties you to your inbox for several hours just to correspond back and forth. And that's time that you're not doing coding, you're not doing designing, you're not doing actual progression on the project. And
or building the business.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome. So before, I want to be mindful of our time here, and I know you have a client call. So before I let you go, what's up next in the next 6 to 12 months?
So the plan is to stop client work altogether and focus solely on the plugin. That's the game for me to reach the next level. The way I see it with this solution, it can easily become a standard of how we are going to be managing our client communications. If we're looking back, because I've been in the WordPress ecosystem since 2008, so I've seen the transitions. I've seen the stuff kind of move along from the most basic themes to page builders, custom post types, and all of these things that just seem as a given nowadays. But a few years back, it was only a dream. Mm-hmm. Or you would hire a developer for thousands to do. So that's my vision for this. There's a bunch of new kind of features coming out. Right now, we're in an expedited release kind of process where we're releasing an update every Friday. Today, we're releasing another update. And next Friday, another one. And next Friday after that, another one. All of the stuff that we're building is based on client requests. I stopped thinking of ideas. So we have a public roadmap and the clients tell me what they want. They upvote it up there, and whatever reaches the top gets on the development queue. So it's to be honest, in terms of where the plugin will go, is out of my hands.
As you said, the plugin is the name of the customer, right? It's whatever they want. Whatever the feedback they provide.
It's for them, basically, If they use it and their clients use it, then I'm golden. I am going to kind of think about it, because a lot of us don't have that clarity, let's say, I don't know if I do, but I like to believe I do, in terms of what the client will do and will not do. So I'm just taking in all of my experience and trying to make an educated decision of taking their ideas and crafting a solution out of it that will work both for them and for the client, and for us and at the company.
Awesome. Well, that's First of all, congrats on the plugin. Congrats on the journey. I'm definitely going to go check out the music for sure. Vito, where can people reach out and say thanks?
So we have a Facebook group. It's called the WP Feedback Community. That's a great way to start. And you can also go to the website, wpfeedback.co. And I believe there's going to be a link here below.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And as you know, but I'm also kind of super active on Twitter, and we have our Instagram channel. On LinkedIn, I have like 4,000 connections. They're all WordPress professionals that a lot of time reach out to me and ask me questions, and I'm always happy to help. So I think I would say that if you want to reach me directly, LinkedIn is the best channel. But to check out the plugin, wpfeedback.co.
Awesome. And I'll certainly link up all of those in the show notes, and as well as the coupon that Vito has graciously shared with us as well. Thanks, Vito, for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, definitely.
And for you listening, until next time, it's your time to live in the feast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I could speak for both Vito and myself by saying that we'd love to hear the one takeaway you got from today's episode. It's super simple. In the podcast app of your choice, presumably it's the one you are listening to right now, drop that in a comment or a review, or go ahead and share it in a tweet and tag @Rez. That's with 3 Z's, and I'll be happy to pass that along to Vito. Don't forget to also hit that subscribe button so that you'll be the first to listen next week when we'll be back with Hillary Weiss, a consultant and copywriter, talking about how to make a statement with who you are and how your personality can affect your pricing. Until then, it's your time to live in the feast.